All right, so we're talking about quality, but there's so much around quality. What specifically are you looking at?
What ICASA has done is there's a draft regulation called the End User and Subscriber Charter. It seeks to address consumer issues. It looks at quality of service, which includes dropped calls, network congestion, call failures, fault repair times. So what it does is it sets parameters, and when it sets the parameters for operators to comply with, say for example, there's a percentage of drop calls that's allowed.
Yeah.
Drop calls outside of that would be something else. There's a second component of the regulation that looks at information that's to be provided to consumers so that consumers are better empowered. One of the biggest set of complaints that we receive at ICASA is about billing. Billing is the biggest issue. It's not necessarily the same for operators because their complaints might be a little bit different, but the reason that consumers seem to be complaining about billing is because they don't understand how they're billed. Yeah. For example, if you're roaming internationally, people don't understand the costs involved. So what the draft regulation seeks to do is address that in the sense that we would like operators to tell you what the average charge is for data and voice. And then it's, of course, the consumer's right as to whether they want to use the service or not.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is there are other provisions similar to that. We seek to ensure that we have more empowered consumers. So you make an informed choice as opposed to the current situation. So, I mean, of course, you're going to have a consumer that's going to choose to pay 150 Rand a meg, for example, for data roaming. But you're going to have the majority of consumers that are going to say, no, that's too expensive, I didn't realize that, or whatever, you know, so at least your choices are informed. Then there's a third component, which relates to complaints. The complaints process is often very, very difficult. People don't understand it. It's difficult to gather information. It's not that the information doesn't exist, it's just not easily available. So what the draft regulation seeks to do is put this in the consumer domain and make it easily available in the sense that we would actually like to see a situation similar to the warnings on cigarette boxes where we have notifications on device packaging. So effectively on your tablet box or your cell phone box, it would tell the consumer what the complaints process is. You may never use it, but the day that you need it, at least it's readily available.
At least you have it, it's available
Absolutely.
to you. Do you find that these complaints are coming towards a specific operator, or is it across the board against all of the operators?
It is across all, against all operators. There's a more or less even distribution. There are some operators that are slightly more in particular areas than others. But I think it's a much broader issue. It's really about information. Consumers don't have enough. So that's what this regulation really seeks to do, to make sure that that consumers are given more information.
Yeah.
I mean, if you speak to an operator, they tell you that all the rules around international roaming on their website. And I'm sure it is. But it's just not easily accessible.
No, it's not. You're going to navigate, and it is difficult.
Exactly.
And I've been bitten badly. I mean, it's just you're not aware of how bad it actually is.
Absolutely.
So what recourse do we have? I mean, I know we've come to the end. We're going over. But just finally, how do we get hold of you? What do we do if this is talking to them?
It's a draft regulation, so what we have is a public consultation process. Typically, we've had operators, licensees, manufacturers, business commenting. What we would like to see in this particular regulation is we'd like consumers to participate. In that regard, we have provincial workshops. We're in Port Elizabeth on Thursday, Durban on Friday, and Mpumalanga on the 17th, and Cape Town, the date is still to be determined. And then we have public hearings. There's also a process where you can send us a written submission after having looked at the regulation. There's also a consumer version of the regulation, which is simplified. And on our website, there's actually a section that allows you to comment. It's very simple. You tell us what the topic of the complaint is, and you also just give us a brief description and tell us how you think that could be addressed.
And then how we do it. Just go to the ICASA website, and you'll be able to participate in this and get all of the details.
Absolutely.
Katharina Pillay, ICASA councillor, thank you very much for talking to us. Right, let's take a very, very